Hi, Jennifer Stuart here. I am so excited to have with me today Lori Wildenberg. She is a mom of four, is passionate about helping families build connections that last a lifetime. She's the co-founder of 1 Corinthians 13 Parenting Ministry, lead mentor mom with the Moms Together Facebook community, national speaker, and a parent coach. The Messy Life of Parenting, Powerful and Practical Ways to Strengthen Family Connections is Lori's fifth parenting book. It's going to be on the bookshelves any day now. And for more information, you can go to her website, loriwildenberg.com. So, hi, Lori. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Jennifer. I'm excited about this.
I'm excited to chat with you too. I love your mission and your passion for helping families create amazing relationships and connections. So one of the things that you talk about is that you want to help steer parents away from trying to always follow all the pop culture fads for parenting, which I know as a parent and working with families that can be so confusing. So what's your recommendation? How do you recommend parents to try to avoid just jumping on every parenting train that comes along?
You know, that is such a good question. And so I think we have to start with our goal in mind, and then we're able to filter through the stuff that we would like to avoid. So for instance, when I speak to a lot of moms groups, most moms, that the rare occasion if one does not want a relationship with their child to last a lifetime, that's a rare occasion. Most moms, most parents want a relationship with their kids that last a lifetime. And so if you can parent in a way that draws you together rather than pushes you apart, then you are creating a situation in your home where they're naturally coming to you rather than being pushed apart. So an example of that would be a natural consequences approach would be to, if you break it, fix it, right? And that's not a bad thing, but what that does is it does teach responsibility, but it also, the subtle message is you're in this by yourself, buddy, and you got to figure it out. And I would prefer a family that's sort of not codependent, but interdependent, one that is in the good and the hard stuff together. And so one way that I look at that is kindness is the thing that always brings us together, right?
Sure.
That's something that draws us together, as does empathy and compassion. Those are things that always bring us together. If something feels harsh and separating, that is probably not what most parents really want to communicate to their kids. Most want this relationship that lasts a lifetime. So would it be okay if I describe my my parenting spillage philosophy? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got four kids, and they're all 2 years apart, except for the middle two, who happen to be 18 months apart. So, you know, we had four little kids, 5 and under. It was crazy.
Sure.
And so, of course, that also meant 4 teenagers, and now we're in the 4 young adult phase, right?
Aww.
But so when we had, you know, our 4 kids, 5 and under, I am telling you, it was not a meal until somebody spilled. It drove me out of my tree. Right? I mean, they're always spilling. They have like no sense of their body space.
Right.
And it's just like, even if you move the cup forward, somehow it's going down. Even if you have a sippy cup cover, it's still going to make a mess. I don't know. It just is how it works. So prevent all you want, it's going to happen. And so that is kind of a metaphor for life. We do our best to prevent the mess, but yet the mess still happens because that's life, right?
Sure.
So it started to make me crazy because they would always spill. And this wasn't out of a noble, oh, I'm going to have this really wonderful philosophy for life. This was so I wouldn't kill the children and I wouldn't, you know, go completely crazy. So I started saying, and really honestly, it was more for me than it was for them. I would start saying, that's okay. Everybody spills. I'll help you clean it up.
Oh, I like that.
And the reason I said it this way is that's okay. That communicated, mom's not going to lose her mind if I mess up. All right. So that's okay. And that helped me settle down. And then everybody spills. That took the shame away from making a mistake. And they need to know that they're going to make mistakes and it's okay. And everybody makes them. And that's how we learn. So I would say, that's okay. Everybody spills. And then rather than say the natural consequences approach, go and get a rag and clean it up, which I sometimes did have to do out of, needing to speed things up, right?
Sure.
But I would more often say, that's okay, everybody spills, I'll help you clean it up. So that they still needed to be responsible for the mess, but that they weren't alone in the mess. And that they had someone who loved them, was coming side by side to help clean up the mess.
I love that.
So that became, at some point we were saying, that's okay, everybody crashes the car, we'll help you figure it out.
Oh, no.
So life is filled with stuff, and if we parent in a way that either we expect perfection or don't expect the unexpected, then we are doing a disservice to our children, because they are going to have things that make them scared, make them sad, right? If we just parent to happy, they're going to have a life, a fourth lived, a fourth prepared for. And we don't really have to prepare for happy. Everybody gets happy. We do have to prepare for sad and mad and scared. And if we never experience those things, how's courage birthed in a person? How is empathy ever birthed if we don't have a way to understand sadness and grief? We don't get that. Things that like social justice and righteous anger to get things done, if we don't experience mad and do the mad in a way that is positive and constructive and problem solving, mad can go its own way, and so can those other things. So we want to help our kids learn how to navigate life, a full life, not just I want my kids to be happy life, because they're going to have disappointments. So, and if we can do that and then draw them toward ourselves, and so they know that they can really depend upon their parents and their family members. Because what a beautiful thing, Jennifer, when I would be not in the kitchen, but I could still hear what was going on, and someone would, of course, spill, and one of the other kids would say, that's okay, everybody spills, I'll help you clean it up.
Oh,
that is like music to a mom's ears, right?
That warms your heart, yeah.
Yeah, because then the siblings are getting along. And my youngest daughter, Kendra, she was in college. She nannied to earn some extra money. And as she was nannying, her little 18-month-old little girl she was watching spilled, and she called me up and she goes, Mom, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what I said. And she said, that's okay. Everybody spills. I'll help you clean it up. I said it so much, it was just like boom into their minds.
I love that. Well, and I love how that teaches empathy too, because that's something that I always work on with the kids in my preschool and the families I work with, is how do you get the children to feel empathy on the inside, right? As opposed to telling them to say, I'm sorry, or thank you, or if you're modeling that over and over and over again, then they're catching on to that. I love that. That's so sweet. So, and I think a lot of times it's, I guess, piggybacking on that, parents struggle with knowing, all right, when are you helping your kids and when are you enabling their poor choices or their challenging behaviors? So, and I know this is something you address. So what's kind of your take on that? How do we know?
Yeah, helping is moving toward empowering them, right? Enabling is creating a dependency and an irresponsibility. And sometimes there's kind of a fine line, like you're not totally sure. So in the example of that's okay, everybody spills, I'll help you clean it up, an enabler would say, that's okay, everybody spills, I'll clean it up for you and you just go do your own gig, right? That would be enabling. That's enabling behavior that you're, wanting to address, either to fix or to avoid or to correct. And Enabling doesn't do that. Enabling keeps them in the same spot. Helping lifts them out of that spot into a new place. And I think you have to ask yourself the question, am I lifting up or keeping them in the same spot? And then I think you know the difference if you can ask yourself that question. Because a lot of times we want to rush in and rescue because, again, we don't want our kids to experience any sort of discomfort or sadness. But gosh, if they don't experience it under our roof, how are they going to manage that when life comes at them and those things happen? Because they will.
Yeah.
They totally will.
Yeah, no, definitely. I see that a lot with young kids. Even I'm just trying to put on their shoes or their jacket, or I mean, I can often tell which ones have the parents that are, okay, let's figure this out together, and which ones have the parents that are, I'll just do it for you. So then,
and sometimes out of like, we got to get going. I mean, there are those times where you just cannot wait for that, right? But if you have that more often than not, where you're with them in the struggle, that's better. But there are times where, okay, we got to get going. I will help you with this jacket right now,
Sure. Oh, definitely. I have 3, so yeah, I get it. So, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you can actually have a full body workout just getting their clothes on, right?
Oh yes, no, I've seen there's sometimes those funny Facebook posts of the mom with triplets, and she's trying to get their pajamas on or something. Yes,
I know. I've seen that. They're rolling all over the place, and they're trying to grab, and the kids, of course, are slippery because they're almost all naked. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, and the poor mom, she's trying so hard. I'm sure she's sweating by the time it's done. So, all right. So,
yes.
So for parents of more than one kid, as I know you experienced, and I have 3 as well, sibling rivalry can be such a big stress, right, in the family. So what are some of your advices for helping siblings have a good relationship as opposed to always pushing each other's buttons? And
yes. Oh, the little rascals, they try these things out at home, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think if the parents set the tone for appreciating the differences in each child, that's really the first step, because they are all gifted in different ways and they all struggle in different ways. And then with their giftedness and their struggles, perhaps they can help each other out, where one might have a strength that the other one doesn't have, and they can help each other out, even no matter their age. So if you can first start to appreciate the uniqueness of the child, that really builds unity within the family. And that is something that you need in order to avoid rivalry and to build relationship. You need to have unity. The other thing that sometimes parents do with the very best of intentions, we think it's motivational, but what it does is it sets the tone for rivalry for sure, is to say something like, your brother, he is doing, or you could start out by saying, I can see that you're struggling with math. But if you notice your brother, he sits there and he works on this, and then he finds his answer. Your brother is really good at math because he perseveres. So what they're hearing is not an encouragement. What they're hearing is a comparison.
Right.
And so that you have to be really careful of when you're appreciating the uniqueness of the children, right? You don't compare them at the same time.
Right.
That comparison is the thing that leads to competition. And as we have, you've heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. It is. It is the thief of joy, and it sets kids up to continually compare each other and into competition with their siblings. Now, perhaps, in school or on a team with a peer group, that's an appropriate place for competition. But within the family, we really want to avoid that, because that really sets kids up for some bad situations. And parents do this with the best of intentions, thinking that here's a good example, and they love their brother or they love their sister, and this is going to be motivational, but it is not.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm sure it makes them irritated with the other sibling then thinking, well,
yes.
My goodness. Yes. Well, if that one's going to be so good at that, then I don't want to hang out with them or play with them or.
Yes. Or I'm not even going to try because that's their thing, not mine. It sets up a whole thing that we really want to avoid.
Yeah, no, and I love how you point out trying to find each of their strengths, because I mean that's a life skill then they can take to the workplace or wherever, is thinking, right, I'm good at this, they're good at that. Let's all come together and use our own skills. So
yes,
yeah,
yes,
I think
definitely.
that's a great idea. All right, so then one of the next topics I always like to think about is tantrums for parents of little kids. Is like, oh my goodness, that's like the worst thing, right? And any part of the day. And, we're human, right? Moms and dads are human too. And we're going to have emotions just like our kids, but we need to be the adult. So what's your advice? Like, how do we remain the adult when the child is screaming their head off in the grocery store or something?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So your question really has two parts. So I'm going to just quickly address, there are different kinds of tantrums. And so you need to determine the cause of that so that you can get to the solution side. That's my quick little thing. And if people go to my website and they plug in tantrums, they can discover the different kinds of tantrums, and then they can also find the ways to resolve those tantrums. And one little tip that I'm going to give you, which has to do with the tantrum, let's say they're already in a full-blown tantrum and you can't do the prevention, right? So one thing you can do if you're at home, you can say, take the tantrum to your room as if it's a separate thing. Or wherever your safe spot is in your house, right? Take the tantrum to your room, and when you can let the tantrum go, you can come on back out. Because what kids need to know is that the tantrum doesn't control them. They control the tantrum. And kids, when they feel out of control, it just keeps going. But when they realize they can control it and let it go, then they are able to actually get some self-regulation and put a stop to this tantrum. So that's important for them to know. And it works. It's weird. It works. It works great. I've had so many parents tell me, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And so you don't put them, you don't have them go to their safe spot, whatever that is, without saying those words. And then you don't keep them there for a particular amount of time. There are some strategies that would say, well, if they're 2, they need to be in a timeout for 2 minutes, right? So, and timeouts, that's a whole nother topic. But what we want is to draw them back to the family fold and to reward the behavior when they're able to self-regulate. So as soon as they can come on back, when you can leave the tantrum, come on back out, and we'll read this book together.
Yeah, so I love that, because you're recognizing the tantrum is separate from who they are.
Yes.
Not defining them. I like that.
So the other part to your question regarding, what do parents do? And this is something that you can train your kids into. So you have to name it, claim it, stop it, and solve it. Okay? So name it. You have to recognize it starting to happen. Like for me, I can just sort of feel this whole flush of emotion coming up to my face. So then I have to say, okay, I'm feeling mad. Okay? Claim it. I'm feeling angry because anger is always a secondary emotion. What is it? I'm angry because I'm fearful because my kiddo hid in the rounders at Target and I can't find them and they just came out and I'm mad, right? So fear can stir on anger. So, okay, so claim it. Figure out what the main emotion is. We have to stop it, okay? We've got to put a stop to the anger. So, and these things have to happen fairly quickly in your brain. I suggest using something called a rage interrupter, something that will stop the mad. Like for me, in my brain, because if I did it like to someone's face, it would be mocking, right? So I'm not going to do that. But in my brain, I do a silent scream. I close my eyes and do a little silent scream, and somehow it makes me kind of laugh, and I can have a sense of humor. It changes the dynamics so that I'm able to work out of my head versus out of the emotion, right? You need something that gets you to here. One dad told me that he bites his finger and the pain moves him from here to here. Isn't that cute?
Okay.
It works.
Whatever works.
So everybody's got something different. There's some people that repeat scripture, but, like love is patient, love is kind. But I have to say that does not pop into my head when I'm feeling that rage. So I have to close my eyes and do my little, silent scream. So then that's name it, claim it, stop it, and then finally solve it. Once you can stop the anger and you can work out of here, then you can get to the solution side of the issue, because anger is a great indicator that something is wrong,
right?
But it's a terrible solution. So we have to be here in order to solve what is, whatever the thing is that is making us angry, which,
Sure.
Could be fear, could be sadness, could be anxiety. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. So it's allowing ourselves to have the emotion and then figuring out a solution for it. So, yeah. And
Yes.
Of course, always humor. I like that picturing yourself screaming makes you, laugh a little bit, because anytime
because it's silly,
break up humor, but yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
But I wouldn't do it in front of them, because that would be like mocking. Like,
right.
That'd be really rude.
Yeah.
So no sarcasm. Sarcasm isn't good.
Right. No,
so,
I know.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of us grew up with a lot of sarcasm. And so, yeah, we have
Yeah.
to control that. I know
Yes.
my family totally was very sarcastic. And
Yes.
yeah, I think we're trying to recognize that that's not always the best
Yeah,
way.
because it's so passive aggressive, and it creates such a message that the kids aren't sure, does mom think this is funny,
Yeah.
or is she mad? I mean, they don't know what to do with that.
Right.
Heck, I don't know what to do with sarcasm. Kind of like, ha,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, and then obviously, I mean, parents with special needs kids, I know you addressed this as well. So that's a whole nother ball of wax, right? I mean, that's going to be it's going to be harder on the family. And those parents have to grow so much to be able to deal with their own emotions and just get through the day. So what are some of what's some of your advice for parents having to deal with extra challenging situations?
I would say it's really important to note the successes and to break those successes down into very small pieces. So, I mean, let's say that, they're trying to tie their shoe or something. So when they even just hold the laces in two hands, something like this, I don't know, just break down the task and celebrate each thing, because that way you're going to see progress. You're less likely to see progress if, you're just looking at the end result. So really separate the things, the task, into smaller bites, and that's going to be really helpful. We are our kids' best advocate. So also going into the school year and talking to the teachers ahead of time so that they have an understanding of what the struggle might be. They're getting everybody's folders and information on the kids, but yet going in and speaking to the teacher is the best thing to do, because that information may not be opened for the first couple of weeks because they're so overwhelmed getting the classroom prepared. So being your child's best advocate and breaking down those successes, giving empathy to the other children and showing them how that empathy can come in when you've got a child with some special needs. And then self-care, that's actually really important too. It's important for all parents, particularly parents with kids with special needs, because you really need to be able to regenerate and to get away for a little bit, especially with your spouse. That's really important, because there are a lot of families that have special needs kids that end up divorcing because of the stress and the struggle.
Sure.
So, and I would also say, and this is of course easier said than done, but don't let the challenges of that, special needs kiddo be your whole life, to the place where that comes first before anything else. It needs to take its proper place in the family, just, with all the other kids and with your, marriage and so forth. So to be very careful of that.
Yeah. So it sounds like they need a support network then. I mean, it's got to be.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
trying to take that on your own. I'm sure that's really hard for families that don't have nearby relatives and things like that, because it's going to be
Right.
harder to find a babysitter or nanny to come in.
Yes.
And that can correctly handle a child who has special.
Yeah. And it's exhausting, and you also have to you cannot take care of the kids if you can't take care of yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely. I know when we had our first one, I often just put my own needs aside. And I learned by the time I got to the third one, yeah, like that's not a good choice, because I wasn't always a happy mom and a happy wife. So
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
very important. And I know one of your things is, in general, focusing on building relationships and building up a child's heart, and just watching their emotions. And that's something I strongly believe in, even in the little preschool I run, is trying to help work on the inner kids, as opposed to just their ABCs and their numbers. And
Yes.
how do we share in the classroom? How do you encourage parents to really focus on that with their young children? You have advice?
To really notice the character qualities that they have that are already, maybe in a pretty good spot, and to think about the character qualities that need to be grown, which, for instance, most of us would probably like to have generous kids, like kids who share, or, kids who can get along with others. So to be able to focus on, here's my little trick. Figure out what it is that drives you nuts, right? What quality, because we can always think of that.
Okay.
So what quality is driving you nuts? Is it a lack of cooperation? Is it selfishness? And then figure out the opposite of that. So selfishness, unselfishness. So that is the quality that you choose to work on. Rather than continuing to address the selfishness, instead, work on things that promote unselfishness. And then maybe small things like, please hold the door for me. I've got my hands full of groceries. And that's doing a service for someone else, which is actually unselfish. And so then you say, thank you so much for holding the door open for me. That was a generous act. And you start putting language around that. And you keep talking about the thing that you want to grow in your child. So
putting your attention on what you want to be, as opposed to focusing on what you don't want.
Yes, because the more we practice the thing we want, the more we will get better at it. The more we practice the thing we don't want, we will get better at that too. So we want to practice the thing we want.
I love that. That's great advice. I think that's great advice in general, even for us as adults, right? Focusing on what we want out of life. So
yes,
very,
exactly.
very good advice. Yeah. And then I always like to ask, okay, so if you were to give parents of young kids one thing to focus on, what would that be?
I think kindness is the thing that really cements families. And if you can add kindness and respect to the equation, you're going to have a really good situation, because with respect comes order and, cooperation, and kindness really draws to the heart of a person. And so I would say, when you are talking with your kids, and even when you are trying to encourage them in discipline is considered training. Discipline isn't punishment, right? It's training. Keep in mind respect for the person and kindness, because we can always do what we need to do and implement those things. So, and if you feel that mad coming up, use that little rage interrupter so that you can get to that solution side. Yeah. But yes, kindness and respect in the family, I think, are two big things to focus on.
And you're mostly teaching that through modeling. Is that your approach for that?
Yeah, yes. Definitely model, and even speak about it, because we not just want to walk the talk, but we want to talk about the walk, right? So you discuss this with your little ones, and show them what kindness looks like, but also talk about it so that they don't miss it.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Lori. And if people want to come and learn more about all of your books you've written and all your other great resources, what's the best way for them to do that?
Go to loriwildenberg.com and you will find everything there. There's a bazillion different articles on, well, as we said, tantrums, just family connection, all kinds of things like that. What probably almost anything they would like. And they can do that. My books are sold on Amazon, also through my publisher, New Hope Publishing, and my one of my first publishers, also Bold Vision Books. So, or you can just directly go to any online store or a brick and mortar store for that matter. And if they don't happen to have them right now, they either will, or you can ask and they can order. So pretty much anywhere you can get the books. So
wonderful,
yeah,
wonderful. And we're going to have in the email that they can come over to your website and get the how to create a family mission statement.
Yes, if they sign up for my blog the day that this is aired, if they sign up that very day, I will know that they have seen this, and I will send them, because then I'll have their email because they've signed up for the blog. I will send them the 3 easy steps to create a family mission statement. Families want to do those, but that is like an overwhelming, you have to have like a PhD to do that. I make it super simple. Who has time for that? So I've got it really easy, a template to use, and it's been pretty effective with parents. So they can actually do it. It's not like, oh, I really want to do that, but oh my gosh, it's too much to even think about. I make it really easy. So if they want that, sign up for my blog, and I will then send that out.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I hope that everyone will head on over to your website and use all the amazing resources you have on there. You have a lot of really great articles. So
thanks so much, Jennifer. This has been just a great pleasure. I love talking about kids and being moms and dads and parenting. My great joy. So thank you.
Thank you.